Hello, welcome to GM Tips, and I'm going to go over a little bit. I throw out the champions of balance and heroes of the street. It's going to play into a little bit of the topic I'm going to talk about this morning. So what's my topic when I talk about topics? I'm going to look at the anti-hero. Now, many of you guys are like, what the heck, Rick, is an anti-hero? Well, sorry if my eyes look like I'm looking down. It's how I have my camera zooming in on me. So, an anti-hero is a hero that basically is not good. Not necessarily evil either, but not good. They are the heroes that are the ones that get pushed into it. They're not the ones that would choose the hero's path on their own. They're not about the good of the world. They're not about trying to save the good of the world. They are simply people that are thrust into a role where they don't want the evils to destroy what they've built. And so, an anti-hero generally vacillates in several alignments. Now, I know some of you guys are not huge on alignment. Again, it's up to your campaign. You don't have to even use an alignment with this. You can use the term anti-hero or they're not necessarily the antagonist. They are a protagonist, but not your normal protagonist. They're not Theseus. They're not Perseus. They are not, I don't know. Go through a litany of things. They are not necessarily the Frodo Baggins or the Bilbo Baggins of the world. They are more of, well, look at Rapunzel and Tangled. The hero there. He is not a hero. He's an anti-hero. Yes, he gets pulled into doing heroic things out of the love of a woman. But he's not necessarily a hero by nature. So, let's take a look at anti-heroes in the game. Now, I'm going to focus first a little bit on alignment, and then I'm going to move my way over to what I perceive an anti-hero to be. And the reason I talk about anti-heroes is because as GMs, it's a great role to help our players to see that even though they're not necessarily good, lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, they don't have to be good to be a hero or an anti-hero. They can do the right things for the wrong reasons sometimes, if that makes sense. So, the alignments that are normally put into the anti-hero role. Neutral. And again, I'm going to go through a little bit of the alignment descriptor because I think it's good to have, and then I'm going to go through the other things. A neutral character does not seem to be a good idea. A neutral character does what seems to be a good idea. They don't feel strongly one way or the other when it comes to good or evil or law or chaos. Most neutral characters exhibit a lack of conviction or bias rather than a commitment to neutrality. Such character probably thinks good is better than evil. That's an anti-hero's kind of thinking. After all, she would rather have good neighbors than be ruled by bad ones. True. Still, they are not personally committed to upholding good in any abstract or universal way. Some neutral characters, on the other hand, commit themselves to philosophies of neutrality. So that's neutral. Chaotic neutral is a character who follows their own whims. They're an individualist first and last. They value their own liberty, but do not strive to necessarily protect others' liberty. They avoid authority, resent restrictions and challenges and traditions. They do not intentionally disrupt organizations as part of an anarchy. To do so would necessarily be evil. They just represent the freedom from society, the freedom of society. So lawful neutral. They believe in the acts of law above all things. Doesn't matter if it's good or evil. It's just law and an ordered structure is what makes sense. So those are your three kind of what I call alignments of the anti-hero. And I would think the anti-hero, in my opinion, as a GM, vacillates more between chaotic neutral and neutral. Again, they're not necessarily good. They don't espouse the values of good. They're not trying to be a moral do-gooder. They're not trying to see good prevail. They just realize that evil is a whole lot more restrictive, and it's more detrimental to one's health than good is. They would rather see good around them because at least with that, somebody's watching out for their better good. When it comes to evil, they're not necessarily looking out for the good of anything other than themselves. So that's really where an anti-hero bases themselves. They are a rogue that normally would steal, but seeing what evils are going on around them, would rather steal from the evil guys and ladies than the good ones. Because, gee, if the evil ones get the things that they want and take over, everybody's going to suffer, including the neutral. So they're not wanting to be in that suffering. So they do things out of self-desire, but in the end to bring about the greater good, just from the simple fact that evil is really not a good thing. It just dampens the whole spirit of the room. Does that make sense? The anti-hero can be the chaotic neutral. They don't have to be, as people call them, the murderers and the chaos bringers and the anarchists. Again, chaotic neutral is not about anarchy. They're just about freedom. They don't want to be restricted like the lawful neutral who would restrict. The lawful neutral is not necessarily evil. They want to bring about order and society so that things can be built and things can grow. They don't necessarily want tyranny, because tyranny doesn't always bring about the best things in society. In fact, sometimes it often rips the fabric of society apart and leads to civil war. They would rather have just structure, is what they want. They want a structured life. So it's the person that loves structure and loves just having boundaries around them that let them know, okay, that's too far, that's too far. Really, that's more of your lawful neutral. Your true neutral just really cares about themselves. But they care about themselves enough to know that if everybody around them gets burned down around them, that their life is not going to be a better place. So, I love that they say you're the champions of balance. What are they? There are a lot of different alignments when I look at champions. Where do I see classes of anti-heroes? They can be any. But ones that tend to lend real well to neutrality, the bards, the rogues, the investigators, clerics, druids, sometimes rangers, fighters definitely, cavaliers, though they're a little more, they don't have to be lawful. Cavaliers are just champions of their cause. Your shamans, your investigators, your alchemists, your oracles. You can have any of these type of anti-heroes. But what you want to impart into your players as they look at doing a neutral role, they can still be a hero. They don't have to be a cat. They can just be kind of that hero that falls into the role, that didn't expect it, but did good anyways and brought about good anyways, even though that was not their goal in life or their existence. They were just simply trying to do something for themselves that happened to be for the better of the people around them. Vigilantes especially make great anti-heroes. Ninjas make great anti-heroes. They get pulled into something that's bigger than them, and they see what's going on around them, and they don't like the tyranny because it's bad for business. It's bad for their way of building what they want to build. So, as you're going into an anti-hero role as a player, and I would say this, when you run a neutral, you don't have to be this just disruptive element. I'll give you a perfect example out of our group. Painvin the Rogue, and I go to him a lot. I'm going to hit him and Damien today because really they epitomize the anti-hero in our group. Painvin is about Painvin and about his country, Hionin, that he is a spy for. But at the end of the day, Painvin doesn't necessarily want his friends that are good hurt. He doesn't want things to fall down around him because, then he all of a sudden gets inconvenienced. His mission gets disrupted, and honestly, so does his financial benefit. So Penguin does things because he sees the alternative is just not good for business, not good for his mission. Penguin will lie every word that comes out of his mouth. He is a perpetual liar and a cad and a rogue. But he's not evil. He doesn't want to harm necessarily good people. He leaves them alone because they're good people. He saw slavery being implemented in one village by this rogue, and he didn't like it because it was really bad for business. He tried to deal with him and do an arms deal to get him swayed away from harming the populace. But when that didn't work, he just made it all come down around the guy and chased him out and then cornered him and then still threatened him. Didn't kill him, threatened him. I love that kind of anti-hero. Penguin will forge. He will do dirty deeds against the bad guys. He will use whatever measures necessary. But he's not about doing evil necessarily. He's about, let's just get the mission done for the right reasons and let me get paid along the way. Because, me doing well and benefiting sure helps me accomplishing the mission. I love how Max plays him. He will very much at times butt heads with the goods, but he's learned one thing. I fear Kal-El, the neutral good war priest, much more than I fear most evil people. So I want to stay on Kal-El's good side, because Kal-El can make my life pretty miserable if I don't do the right thing. You see what I mean? He's the anti-hero. Damien, on the other hand, is the lech. He loves to be liked. He wants the women fawning off of him, even sometimes the men. He's got a weird eye for beauty. But I love it because of how he plays it. Anything good-looking, he's kind of attracted to. He does things he does to impress the ladies and get the woman, or get the guy. I don't know. He's kind of going both ways with it, which is kind of fun for me as a GM. He does it for the praise and the attaboys and for the adoration, the fame, so he can get more of what he wants. He wants to be the debonair lover, but he doesn't want to be the good guy. And he is self-preserving at the same time. He's not going to stick his neck out too far. But at the same time, he's not going to let his friends get hurt. He is in for a penny in for a pound type of guy. And he really does use subterfuge, domination, charm, wit to disarm his enemies. And so as you look at these guys, they are the epitome of an anti-hero. So I would say to you, look at, when you're running an anti-hero, put the selfish reasons in there, but do the selfish reasons to the ultimate good of the world. That's an anti-hero. Why am I doing an anti-hero? Because there's going to be a whole anti-hero guide coming out for the players for Pathfinder. I think it's good to look at what they are. And so, things like Heroes of the Street has a lot of anti-heroes. So what are the anti-heroes that I would say that are in the mix? The Alley Witch, the Busker, the Constable, the Dark Lurker, the Eldritch Archer, the Lamplighter, the Siege Breaker, the Urban Blood Rager, the Urban Hunter, and the Urban Skald. They are people that grew up in the city, that live on the streets, and just want peace on the streets because then it's good for business. I'm watching a show, We Without Wings, on Funimation. The hero, the street hero there is an anti-hero. He literally doesn't want people to get hurt. He's got friends in the street. He gives them a hard time. He's rough. He's abrasive. He's mouthy. He calls them wenches. He calls them other names. He picks on them. But when somebody threatens those people, and they threaten his order of his streets and how he knows these lives to be, and they harm somebody that they shouldn't harm, he has no problem with gangs killing each other. Because you know what? It is what it is. But he keeps saying, though that we may know peace. that we may know peace, that we may know peace. He's a peacemaker. He uses his abilities to try to keep some semblance of peace. All he wants to do is get through each day, pay for a meal, have something to eat and drink, and be able to talk to people once in a while. That's all he really wants. He's not a hero. He's not good by any means of the imagination. But he doesn't want the people he cares about and his order and his world to come apart because somebody evil has this plan that they're going to take it out on all the innocent people around him. That is an anti-hero. That is a hero born of not good and desiring good, but just doesn't want the alternative. And so when you're running these type of characters, this is the type of thing that you play into them. They could be the cut purse that's on the street that's trying to make a living, but then somebody comes in and tries to just bring down his very targets and cuts the purses off. So that ticks him off or ticks her off. And they want to go and deal with that which is disrupting their business of cutting purses and industry and people coming in for sightseeing and whatever else. They're tired of seeing their business disrupted by that evil element. And so they're going to go remove the evil element so that things can go back to them cutting purses again. Or it could be the art thief that is going in and stealing art, but all of a sudden now the new draconian empire has come in. I don't mean dragons, but just draconian lockstep marching fascism has marched in. So now it's much harder to go get those art objects. It's much harder to work the deals and work the underground markets. So now this draconian order has disrupted their livelihood. Well, we can't have that, can we? We need to remove it for the good of business, if nothing else. Now, the fact that innocent people are saved and benefit helps, but it's not the reason why they're doing it. They're doing it because of the other reason. It could be the investigator that is intrigued by all these hidden lores and stuff that they want to learn about, and all of a sudden a door is opened up to a crazy Cthulhu-esque realm that, okay, now madness is running abounding and everything is polluted. Well, how am I going to be able to get the knowledge and research I want with all this pollution and noise? It's got to go. It's just friggin' got to go. And so we're going to get rid of it. It could be street muscle. Okay, so you're muscle on the street, but the new order of this evil guild of Norgorber comes in, or how Narrow comes in and is causing problems. Well, that's not good for business. Okay, now you've just disrupted my whole system of being an enforcer. So now I'm going to go take my things out on you because you've disrupted and destroyed the very thing that I'm trying to do, which is my group being on top. So these are the anti-hero type of suggestions. They're not necessarily good, but they're not necessarily evil either. And they've got a goal in mind, and usually, albeit a selfish one. But that selfish one drives them to the greater good. So when you're designing the anti-hero, those are the type of things that go into play. Be original about it. Don't just pick something that has been done and rehashed. You could do the curious clockwork gnome. Loves building clockworks. Well, all of a sudden, the new orders come in and they've stifled any creativity. Well, that's not good. How am I going to go get my next idea? I want to have a new clockwork. I want to talk with my buddies who can give me great ideas, but they've all been locked away in gulags. Okay, that's not going to happen. I've got to go get them out. And I've got to stop the gulags. This has just got to stop. It's bad for me creating clockworks. So I'm going to use my clockworks to take out this oppressive regime and put things back to normal. You see where I'm going with this? I love the whole anti-hero, and I play the anti-heroes most days. Why is that? When I play anti-heroes because I don't want it to be a goody-goody two-shoes that I've got everything locked around me that I have to do everything for the good of society. I do it because, dang it, this other thing just doesn't make sense to me, and so I'm going to get rid of it because it doesn't make sense. and it's really making my life miserable. And it's making the people who I like miserable. And so all my creativity is gone. Well, that just sucks. Let's go deal with it. Type of mindset. He even, and my best memory of my gnome that did this, Dorian, and I love Dorian. Dorian is one of my, outside of Flynn Greywalker, my Greywalker groups of gnomes are just great. Dorian had the ability, he was a rogue wizard, okay, and an evoker at that. He didn't want the devil he let loose to cause problems with his friends on the island, and oh, by the way, it's going to look real bad that he let the devil out on the island with the druids and their ancient tree. So the devil was going to go do something to the tree, so Dorian thought it would be good to throw the fireball. Well, he did a reflex save that kept him from getting any damage, but gee, it didn't stop the ancient oak from getting burned down, the oldest oak on the island. Well, let's just say Dorian wasn't looked on too kindly. He was sent on a boat off the island by the druids. But that's the anti-hero. You know, he was trying to do the right thing. He didn't mean to burn down the tree. And again, the goods on the island thought, get him off, get him out of here. But he caught the attention of other neutrals who liked him and kind of thought he was cool. And it's kind of the players that I play. I mean, they're unwitting heroes that don't mean to be, but they just happen to get pulled into the mix. So when you're doing an anti-hero, make sure you put in a story that makes sense. You can't put this story that they're this lawful good or chaotic good or neutral good if you don't want to be that. You've got to give them a justification for doing the good that they're doing. Yeah, they're mostly neutral with just a little splash of good in them. They're mostly chaotic neutral with a little splash of good. And that's really an anti-hero. And that's the kind of stories you write them that you can have a lot of fun with. And as you as a GM, GMing it, can have a lot of fun with the player that's writing it. Because, again, there's so many twists and turns. They'll deal with some of the subversive elements, but for the greater good of things. Because the subversives to them make sense. Okay, what better way to take down an evil tyranny than working with chaotic neutral subversives? That works. Let's burn down a few shops, burn down the castle that the bad guy's in, and oh, by the way, life's good again. We don't care what fills the void, just as long as it's not evil and tyrannical. So that's your anti-hero. Keep that in mind, and they're going to use tactics. They're going to use subterfuge. They're going to go to the black market. They will use poison. They will use other things that goods really have a distaste for. Then neutral's like, but it's for the greater good, so what I care, as long as the greater good comes out of it. You know, I love those people who just kind of tilt a little bit on the side of wrong to do right when it comes to gaming. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So this is just an interesting kind of little offshoot talk on the anti-hero. I think the anti-heroes make an interesting play for most players. And it takes them away from being disruptive for the party necessarily, but allows them enough fun and creativity that they can still be a part of a heroic game. They're just not your hero necessarily. All right, thanks, and I appreciate you watching GM Tips, and I hope this gives you some great insights on just running anti-heroes.